we're back to talk about Warcraft, and yeah, so okay, so I missed the scene where they explain Corona's backstory.
Yeah, her mom was like not supposed to have her because she's like half something or another, and her mom got burned and she's got a tusk or something, and the other guy also was abandoned by his parents at age 6 to be trained to be a mage. That's kind of it. That's those two missed. It's.
So they were setting up.
They were setting up the idea that she might be okay, and he might be like powerful. I guess I don't know. Some sort of joke about sex with orcs is really violent, so humans can't do it.
But she's half
right
human.
Yeah.
So that happened somehow. Because they also set up like her and Lothar, which is an amazing use of the name Lothar. Lothar is the name of a stupid character in a Mike Myers SNL sketch.
Oh, really?
Lothar of the Hill People.
I would have thought that was also something from Camelot stuff.
I just think it's funny in relation to that, because
I think Lothar actually is one of the protagonists of the original Warcraft games.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because it does seem like it is like the storytelling of the 15 seconds of prequel information you get at the beginning of the first game.
I didn't play the first game. I think I played Warcraft 2 and 3, and then...
And the first game's the only one I played, so...
Yeah. But, like, you've got the king who's just there. The queen's just there.
Oh, the queen is just super just there. She's the most uninteresting queen ever. Holy crap.
And you've got, like, the orc family, and, like, they do nothing to show, like, parallels between the two sides. Like, it's like they felt like their story was so complicated that they didn't want anything else in the mix to mess with people. So it was like, well, people are going to have a hard time telling the fact that, some orcs are good and some orcs are bad, so we'll make the bad orcs green and the good orcs brown.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And, like, we won't get in, like, a whole, comparison between what the orcs are like and what the humans are like, and, there's only one bad human, but he starts out good, and...
And it's such a nothing change between the two, because it's like, oh no, I've been just secretly concealing the fact that I've been being eaten up by this power, and now I can't fight against it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on. You see a couple you see a couple other races, for
a second.
The elf people-ish and the dwarf people-ish, and they're just kind of off there doing their little thing.
Well, there's that meeting. They all show up for that meeting and are like, we don't care about this.
The dwarves made a bunch of hand cannons for people, which they start using on orcs, which I guess that's the great equalizer, guns, guys.
Well, that's how the movie starts, is with Lothar and the dwarves or gnomes or whatever they were, like, hanging out and making guns. But yeah, and then... So the end of it's so bizarre. The end of the movie is... The king tells Corona to kill him, so she'll be, like...
respected by the orcs, so that
she can be, like, an agent for...
So she can try to make peace between the humans and the orcs.
But they just... And then that's it. They just leave her there.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's resolved. The king's dead. Lothar is now in charge of the humans.
The evil weird orc thing, the evil orc wizard, who suddenly gets like huge when he takes off his vest. It's like, hey, look at all these muscles I suddenly have that I was like kneeling over and being old crockety man before. Bizarre. He's just fine though. Yeah, he totally just walks out of the whole thing. We do have baby Moses orc floating down a river. That happens. He's going to lead his people to freedom.
The wizard guy's like an air mattress with a small hole in it. Like, he needs to keep draining energy to stay big.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, like, that was that scene where, like, that guy's just sitting next to him, and he just keeps, like, draining the guy, and the guy, like, just keeps going back to... drain. Stupid orc draining me all the time.
And the Guardian guy also gets his big like, oh, look at this dark magic turning him into a super muscly, roided out thing.
Well, yeah, like all the spikes come out of his chin and he gets all creepy looking.
Yeah, so basically the green magic is steroids is what I'm getting, I think.
I was watching too for like, you know, like if you take your kids to this, like how violent is it and that sort of stuff. And they do stuff where like when Lothar's son gets killed, he gets stabbed by this giant claw thing.
Right.
And then they show his body laying on the ground and there's like a trickle of blood like on his armor, but like no
piercing, right.
At all. The most violent part really is the final battle scene, and there's like people getting their necks like smashed by.
Yeah, that was like the orc picks up the guy, turns him to the camera, and then crushes his neck, and it's like, well, you kind of did a good job having some restraint right until then, right, guys?
That was the point where I felt like, oh, okay, yeah, there is going to be a bit of violence in this. Because the rest of it's like off-camera stuff. It's like you see a hammer coming down, but the camera doesn't show you what it hits, and
it feels like the entire thing's very. I mean, entire thing seems to like try to parallel Star Wars very poorly. Like it's a New Hope going on.
Yeah, but who's Luke? Like, who's the protagonist?
The people who get away are the protagonists, I guess.
But of the next story,
right?
Like, not of this story. There's no one to follow in this. To me, it felt more like if you just popped in a random episode of season 3 of Game of Thrones, and there you go. Like, okay, just derive what you can from the storyline of this, you know. Or if you watch the last 2 hours of a season of Game of Thrones, like there's a complete story there,
right?
And there's a big action sequence, and in the same case, it would be there's a whole bunch of setup, and then everything's left hanging. Like,
yep.
Did this character survive? Is he really dead? Okay, we're not going to find out.
I guess the entire thing might have actually made more sense if they would have announced, oh yeah, and here's a reboot of the first game to follow up this story 20, 15 years later or whatever it is. Here's an RTS based on the movie. Warcraft the movie, the game, the movie. I guess.
Because the thing, I mean, with RTSs, the whole, and with Warcraft specifically, like you can play as the orcs, you can play as the humans, and so in that context, it makes sense to have kind of the two storylines to show both sides as good guys or protagonists or that sort of thing. But this was like, if they wanted to do that for this, like it needed to focus in on, you know, and we're talking spoilers, so like the main orc guy is killed.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't really follow him all the way through. Like the thing I don't like, just thinking it through, like it seems like it should have been Corona's story. That's who should have been the protagonist.
Yeah.
She's both. She's on both sides. She ends up in this position. And like if you were in this, if you left the theater going, I want to see the rest of her story, that's enough to make the next movie make sense.
Yes. I think you're, and I think that's what they were trying to do, but they were still trying to cram a few too many things into this entire deal. Like you could have taken out the Guardian stuff almost altogether, and you would have been able to pretty accurately make it her movie.
Yeah. Yeah, they just needed to choose to follow her. Like, see the story from her perspective. And there's no reason it couldn't have been, because, like, she knew everything we knew. Like, she told all the human characters about all the orc stuff, and she became trusted by the human characters. It's just that they didn't follow her, they didn't develop her, they didn't start, like, you don't start with her
and she's one of the 3 orcs that you've established having any sympathy for at all.
She doesn't show up at all until she's freed, like, randomly by...
she shows up right before, when she's, like, talking to the slaves before the gate gets opened.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But she's, like, in chains.
She's
like,
already,
that's how we're that's how we're introduced to her.
She's also a slave at the beginning, and they don't really play up that at all. They kind of just like, oh yeah, life sucked for me.
In one scene, she's a slave with the wizard.
And
at the end, the wizard is like, now you're a hero, you're with us.
And suddenly very respected for keeping the wizard under control, to keep him from going off and doing things that aren't to orc standards.
Yeah. Boarcraft. Okay. Well, that was a thing that happened. We saw a movie.
Yeah.
It had orcs in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you like the way we do these, please like the video, subscribe, check out all the written and video reviews at thelmaxfield.com, and thanks for watching.